Hi, my name is Lisa Dillivin. That's Lisadillivan. Today is Thursday, December 2nd, 2010 at 11:06 a.m. I am interviewing Ann Watson. Ms. Watson, can you please spell your name for us?
Yes, Ann, A-N-N, Watson, W-A-T-S-O-N.
Okay. Before we get into the interview questions, I just have a few preliminary questions for you. Can you tell me what dates you worked for RCA?
Yes, I worked from February 1951 until 1956 when I left because of pregnancy, and I was home for 3 years. And about 1959, somewhere in that year, they called me to come back for part-time here and there, occasional work. It would be 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. And then 1963, I was still working part-time work, but I had asked if I could work full-time. And I did get a job, and I started working again. And then I worked full-time until March 1st, 1993.
Okay, and what was your job title?
Oh, I had a typist when I started, and then a few years later, I became a secretary. I moved to different jobs.
Okay, can you tell us each of the jobs you worked?
I could give you kind of a rundown. I went to Pierce Business School for 6 months in Philadelphia, and I graduated from the 6-month course, and Pierce Business School was the place I went, and they set up an interview for me for RCA Camden. Also, we had a neighbor that lived across the street. Her name was Helen Coleman. She had worked RCA most of her married life. And she was like, she proofread documents in the government end. But she put her good report out for me, and that helped me too. So then they called me in to take tests, and I took the tests, and then I got called to come in to get an interview in Ted Smith's office. He was a vice president general manager at that point. He had just taken over from Wally Watts, and his secretary, Betty D'Alessandro, needed help. So I had 3 interviews, one with Betty D'Alessandro and one with the finance man, and I think his name was George McKenna, and then Ted Smith. And I got hired, and I worked for them about 5 months till she got all caught up with the transfer of everything that they had in their new position. And then I started working for Dwight, what was his name? I can't think of it now. But anyway, I started working with procedures, and I worked there under this one man for about a year, and then he moved on with his secretary, who was Betty Ingham. Then one of the men, Al Pescator, got an advancement to be manager. So I was still working then as a typist for procedures, and Jane Engel was his secretary. After about 2 or 3 years, one of the men got a promotion, and that was George Stanley, and I worked for him in procedures, and I became his secretary. And I actually worked for him and Mike Yar, and they were in commercial services, broadcast commercial services. So I worked there for several years, and then I got an interview with Mike Yar, and I worked for him 6 months, and then I had to leave. I was pregnant. Now, do you want me to continue now after my pregnancy?
Sure.
Okay. Then, while I was working a part-time job, I got a visit from Frank Carroll in budgets. and I had worked part-time for the budget groups for about 5 weeks, so they knew me pretty well. And he was getting a promotion to manager of budgets. So at that time, they went back and forth. They weren't going to hire me yet because I was part-time, and they needed people that had been laid off to fulfill their jobs. But through persistency and he wanted me to work for him, so he stuck to his guns, and they said, okay, you can hire her. So that's how I got to work for budgets. And that was finance, and that was very interesting. I enjoyed that for many years. He moved from one job to another in the finance, and eventually went to vice president of finance. And he worked there in that job 1 year, and then someone else came in, Bob Alliger was his name. He came in from government, took over in the commercial business, broadcast systems. His job, when I say his job, Frank Carroll's job. And I worked for him for several months, and then Dennis Boywood came in as they called him Captain Video when they didn't know who they were going to hire, and they told me I was going to work for him. So he came in, and I worked with him for 3 years. He was vice president of marketing. No, take that back. Video. Then about a year after that, he became vice president of marketing, and I worked for 2 more years with him. And during the 2 years that we were working in the marketing business, we were transferred from Camden to Gibbsboro. And then he worked there a year, and they let him go. And then a gentleman by the name of Jerry Smith, who had worked for RCA years before that and was working for another company, decided to come back to RCA. They hired him as vice president of marketing. And then from there, I worked for him a couple of years, and then they sold broadcast systems out. And the way I found out about it, which was really shocking, we had heard rumors that GE was going to take over, broadcast systems. And Joe Volpe was the vice president, general manager of broadcast systems then in Gibbsboro. And he came around to all the groups and said he did not hear anything or know anything. And as far as he knew, there was no sale. But this one Friday night, I came home from work, and I sat down to watch TV, and 11 o'clock news, they announced that broadcast systems division in Gibbsboro was going to be taken over by GE. And that was shocking. So, needless to say, everybody was downsized little by little, and eventually then I went for different interviews, and I finally found a job with Joe Sackville and Cherry Hill. Worked for him maybe not even a year, and they had reorganization, and this was, of course, in, I would say, the staff of the commercial systems. And then I worked for Tom Deeney. They transferred me over there, and we were in Cherry Hill for about 2 years. Then we moved to Morristown, the whole group, and Tom Deeney was there for maybe 6-8 months, and then he found another job outside of RCA, and they sent in a man, Dennis Boywood, who was a young man from another company. So I retired then in 1993, March 1st. So that's pretty much in a lump sum what happened. I don't know if I made everything clear, if it's anything more you need to know.
What kind of wages and benefits did you earn at RCA?
I'm sorry?
What kind of wages and benefits did you earn at RCA?
I had very very good. I was very fortunate. I started at $41 when I started in 1951. And then when I came back after I had left for a few years, I'm trying to remember, I think I started with $90 or something. And then little by little, that's $90 a week. I would say over the years I got pretty good raises, and I was very pleased with it. I never complained about it. When I got to GE, then they froze it. So then that was my last raises, was when I left RCA.
What were your relationships with your coworkers like?
I enjoyed working with them. The commercial was much different than government. I would say they were two different animals. They weren't restricted to so many regulations as government is, because of, government contracts, etc. But it was more of a commercial. It was a nice atmosphere.
Were there a variety of ethnic groups when you worked at RCA?
I'm sorry?
Were there a variety of ethnic groups when you worked at RCA?
A variety, I'm sorry, I didn't hear a variety of what?
Ethnic groups?
Ethnic groups? Oh, okay. Oh, yes. I remember we had this program, they've absolved it now. But anyway, that you had to hire minorities, and they did, and they mixed very well. They were nice people. There was never a problem with that. And people were hardworking. They helped each other. And if you got questions, somebody would always find out for you.
What were your working conditions like?
Very nice. When you talk about working conditions, do you mean like work long or?
Oh.
Let me put it this way. I worked in finance, and we had ups and downs in busy times. So sometimes we had to work a lot of overtime. And quarterly reviews, they came down from New York, and my boss, Frank Carroll, was in the budgets at that time, and then he reported into Jim Gork was the vice president of finance, and I'm trying to think now. We would start about 2 weeks before the reviews were, going to happen to get ready. So we would have a lot of overtime with numbers. We did charts, a lot of charts, and mostly a lot of my work was not just memos, but doing charts. And it was a challenge, and I enjoyed that. So we might work one night to 9 o'clock. I remember one time working to midnight and coming in at 7 and start working again till like 8 that night. But it didn't happen all the time. It was like a quarterly thing. And as time went on, the equipment got better. You started with having, instead of ditto and mimeograph, you would have the regular machines, runoff machines, and you could get